Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Convos with Sazón with yours truly, Cata Mejía. With me today is Ximena Hoyos, mixologist and entrepreneur. Bienvenida.
Gracias, Cata. I'm so excited to be here.
I'm so happy to have you here. I met you a couple of months ago, and I know that ever since we've met, you have been a loyal listener of the show. So to now be on the other side, I'm incredibly excited to dive into your story. Empecemos desde el principio. Tu niñez, your upbringing in Colombia. Talk about what that was like and how creativity in various ways entered your life.
Awesome. So, yes, I was born and raised in Colombia. There was a little in between, which I'll tell you guys in a minute about. But my mom, a sociologist, my dad, an engineering geologist, very nature driven. They were always inspiring us to be out in nature, to be traveling, to be doing all these things that now, when I look at it from this side of my age now, I think like, wow, all of those things that we were doing as little kids now like translate into what I'm very passionate about.
Which is what?
Which is, I have a lot of passions, but I am, of course, mixology, which really is hospitality, and I'll dive more into that in a minute. But I'm also a photographer. I love nature. I love traveling. And family, like one of my passions right now is my son, and dedicating time for my senior, soon to be a college student. So those are my passions. And of course, I didn't tell you guys, I'm also an architect. I went to architecture school in Colombia, South America, not Columbia University, and worked for 20 plus years in the interior design industry in New York City. I'm still doing some work, but I'm more on my own, not like big corporate.
I love. When you and I started talking, you told me that part of your upbringing, right, was being raised in a family that, yes, is very, nature forward, also very tight knit, and the fact that your parents loved entertaining. So talk about that. Being raised in an environment in which people came over to your home and shared that quality time. Number one, what was that like for you as a child, and how does that connect to what you have decided to do now?
So there's like three parts to that question. The first one is there's a beautiful saying that one of my dad's best friends said always to them. It was like their home was like a medieval castle, which always had the doors open for friends. So my house was not a castle, but it was always open for friends. And my parents were, every single weekend, we would have guests, we would have people come over, big parties, small parties. And my brother and I would be the ones who would like help out in the kitchen. So my mom, a great cook, my dad also a foodie. And they taught us, how to set the table, how to like make the salad dressing, and we would have like competitions between my brother and I. He's also a really good cook. So fast forward, when I decided to go to bartending school, when this passion for gin and tonic, finally kicked in, and it was like, okay, let's do something with this. I said we've got to do this the right way. I want to study. So during a summer, I went to school in Colombia, in Medellin, where I'm originally from, Instituto del Cóctel. Shout out to my friends at Instituto del Cóctel. And the first class that we had, it was so amazing because they said it was about hospitality. And that's that moment when everything went like full circle for me, because as an interior designer, the part when I was the happiest I was ever when I was designing was when we were doing hotels, bars, and restaurants. So hospitality design is my favorite part of design, one. Then two, entertaining. I love entertaining when I was a little kid. I love entertaining as a grown-up. And then when they told us, like, this is not about bartending, this is about hospitality and serving a drink with a smile and being, hospitable to people, that's when I said, okay, this is meant to be. It's not that, I told you before, I didn't drink. I don't even drink soft drinks. So I didn't drink. It was when I discovered my passion for gin in 2017, when I started like playing with it, and it was more about serving and being with friends and offering a drink, being hospitable.
Let's talk about the in-between of your childhood and 2017, right? So the fact that you did pursue architecture with the lens of interior design, and the pivot that you made as well. We'll get into you not drinking initially and you discovering gin, but I really want to make sure that we set the foundation of why you felt like even though you had a passion for photography and entertaining, you had to pursue a different career professionally at first.
So that's a loaded question. That's a loaded question. I went to architecture school. I liked architecture. I was more passionate. Very few people know this about me, or like only my close friends. I actually wanted to be a marine biologist. My passion for nature, like I said, we were always like in nature, in the mountains or at the ocean with my parents. In Colombia at that time, you could only study marine biology in Bogota. It makes no sense whatsoever.
Wow.
And my dad,
which is the furthest from the water.
Yes. So it's like, how are you gonna study marine biology 1,000 kilometers away from the ocean? Like, it made no sense. And my dad, as a professor, my dad was a university professor. He questioned it tremendously. He questioned it right and left, and he was like, I don't think that's the right thing to do. Choose any university you want anywhere in the world and travel and study somewhere else, but I'm not going to send you to study in Bogota marine biology. So my mind, like, when you're in that senior year that is so crucial that I'm living now with Matthias, is like, how do you decide on what you're going to do? And my best friends were all going to study architecture. So I kind of started looking into it, and I had always been creative, not, creative, but I had, since I was a little girl, I always said, I want to be a marine biologist. I want to study dolphins. I want to study whales. So it kind of led me into this career, which I love and I'm very passionate about, but it wasn't really, I always had that creative eye with the photography. I've had a camera in my hand since I was 9 years old. But I think it was, you couldn't say, oh, I'm going to be a photographer. In Colombia, you couldn't decide. You like, that was maybe the closest, I guess, that I could be to something creative without getting
questioned.
Yes, you well know.
Yes. And it's a cultural thing, but I understand completely what you're saying. And we'll get to what is on the table, and we'll see you in action as well. Speaking of photography, you picked up a camera at the age of 9. What has kept you tied to that hobby? Now many years later, you're still just as passionate. You use it in a different capacity. And it's almost by theme, because I've seen the photography that you've captured, and it is still very much in nature, but you also have people, you have landscapes. You kind of tackle themed seasons of sorts. So talk more about that.
So my passion for photography, when I was young, my dad had his really nice camera equipment, and he used to take photos for work purposes and of us, obviously, family. So I always was inclined to it just because I always saw him carrying a camera around, and to the point that I was the photographer of the yearbook in my school. Like, I was the one who took all the photographs for the yearbook. So it was something that kind of I always had it in my blood, always had a camera next to me. You can imagine now with a cell phone, I'm like always taking pictures. There's always like, and I'm proud of it because whenever somebody needs a picture, they always ask me, and I always have the picture for the moment. So, even when there was no digital photography, I had my cameras. I would have in my monthly budget 2 rolls of film to be developed. That was my monthly budget. I always had two films, always 2 rolls to be developed. So, it's something that's always, been like part, it's like an extension of my arm. Basically, the camera is an extension of my arm. I don't mind carrying, it's just something that is part of me. And when the pandemic hit, so I've always had it. I've always been like the photographer for everybody and everything. And then when the pandemic hit, my really good friend from work, when, I lost my job during the pandemic, and one of my, my good friends from work, Patricia, she was like, Ximena, I really think you should do something with the photography. So that gave me the time that I didn't have before, because I was too busy, working and interior design, job, which is very demanding, especially in New York City. It gave me the time to really organize my mind and everything around what I did with photography. And believe it or not, the pandemic gave me that push towards nature.
Well, because of the whole social distancing and the fact that I see the connection.
So that's where it kind of like that chip that I had in the back of my brain kind of like was
At
like
the
a
forefront,
lifesaver. It was like a
yeah.
lifesaver during the pandemic. So I started birding. I didn't bird before. So I have like a 200, 600 millimeter lens, which I go around and I just like walk around looking for birds. Like,
I love it.
so that's where really the nature part kicked in more, because before it was more social, more like family, more just keeping like records of memories.
Okay, so let's talk about the turning point, because it seems like the pandemic was a turning point, both to lean on the job front, but also to lean into that more creative side de una manera más dedicada, let's say, you know? So you were an architect focused on interior design. At what point does alcohol and gin kind of enter the chat, for lack of better wording?
So, believe it or not, it was through work that alcohol entered into my world, because I was invited as interior designer, and when you're in the position to be the one who's specifying materials for projects, which I was at the firm where I worked. You have to do lots of research. You have to see the real thing. And I was invited by a firm to go to Spain, by a company of products that are used in kitchens and, on the floors and on walls. And I was invited to go and check out their factory. Well, when you go to these things, people, they take you out for dinner, they take you here, they take you there. And we were at that event with like the managing director in the United States, and she was a passionate for gin. And what better place than to drink gin than in Spain? So a parenthesis there, hold on that thought. My cousin lived in Madrid at the time, and I went a couple of days prior to meeting the whole group so I could spend the weekend with my cousin, who's like my sister. And she said to me, let's go and have some gin tonics at this terrace. And I was like, I don't really drink. She's like, Ximena, let's go and have some gin tonics, please. We need to celebrate that we're together. So Juanita takes me to this terrace in Madrid, and to my surprise, when I drink this gin tonic, I'm like, oh my God, because it tasted so much better than what I had drank here. A friend had offered one here at one point, and I drank it, but I was not a drinker. So I only really had wine with my dad and maybe a Prosecco here and there at a networking or a social event, so that people would not be like, why aren't you drinking? Why aren't you drinking? And fast forward that whole week in Spain with this group, and we get to and we were like wine and dined and, gins here, gins there. And I was trying all these delicious gins. When I came back to New York, one of my bosses, my ex-bosses, who's a gin lover, she came to my desk and because she had seen my social media, and she's like, somebody really liked their gins. I was like, oh my God, I had never really tried such good gins. And she was the one she pushed me into this. Believe it or not, my ex-boss was the one who said, you know why they're so good? I'm like, why? She's like, because they use real good tonic water. What happens is that's one of the secrets in a good gin and tonic, to have a tonic water that is not made with high corn fructose syrup.
Okay.
Because a gin tonic is a really good balance of, flavors and botanicals, and when they use a tonic water that is not premium tonic water, what's the point of using a premium gin if you're going to ruin it with bad tonic water?
Of course.
So she gave me the task. And this was, to mind you, 2017. She's like, Ximena, you go out a lot. You go, go on dinners a lot. You go to restaurants. You go to bars. I'm going to give you the task to find which bars in New York City actually serve good tonic water. And believe it or not, Cata, there were very few. Very few. Fever Tree was just starting to, come, like the good tonic waters were just starting to make, open their market in New York. And there were only a couple of places where you could find them. Now it's normal. You walk into any supermarket, you walk into any bar, and most likely you will find good tonic water. And I'm going to tell you something that historically you're going to be like, wow. In the 70s, there was this surplus of corn. And And that's when high corn fructose syrup was invented, and when all that stuff was injected into our food and damaged like the whole food chain, if you will. But before that, we even had like the soda machines. There were gin and tonic machines.
Wow.
I've seen them in movies.
Wow.
In black and white movies.
Yeah.
So in the 50s, in the 40s, in the 60s, gin and tonic was a thing. And then it became, people were like, I don't like gin tonics. A lot of people that are my age would be like, I don't like gin tonics. And I would always, I have this whole theory around it, so I ask. It could either be because first they had their first bad experience with alcohol. It's a clear liquid. It's so easy to take from your parents' bar and fill up with water, and then, you don't want to go near that again. Or it was because they were getting it mixed with bad tonic water.
Wow. Bueno, y tú sabes todas estas cosas obviamente porque te has dedicado a estudiar, but for a regular person, an average person, who appreciates the experience, appreciates the taste of alcohol if it's made well, what tips do you have to be able to pinpoint, high quality versus something that's not worth dipping into?
That's a really a good question too. So there's your usual suspects. There's a lot. Okay, so my job and the way Gin and Tonic Queen started was I just wanted everybody to love gin. And I wanted to spread the gin love and let people learn and know more about gin. I didn't want to go with the usual, brands that everybody that you always see at every bar. And because I felt that a lot of the times people were like, I don't like gin, because those were the drinks that they were having, and they were like a little reluctant because that was, oh no, I've had that gin and I don't want to try it. I've had gin and I don't like it. And there was this, because of Hendrick's, which was a brand that came out and kind of put gin back on the radar, because they actually toned down the taste of juniper, because a lot of people say, oh, it's too piney for me. I don't like the taste of pine, because juniper berries, which are these guys that are here, juniper berries are what you need for a gin. There's no gin if there's no juniper berry.
Okay, good to know.
So it's a distilled spirit with juniper berries in it. That's what a gin is. And so with all of these small batch distilleries that started coming out, because gin was getting was being put back on the radar, it was like, okay, I want the world to know about gin. I want the world, like, I am so passionate about it because I never really drank before. And thanks to gin, I started discovering other spirits, which we'll talk about. But at the beginning, I just wanted to talk gin. That's all I wanted.
I have to ask, why were you not so much into drinking before? And the reason that I ask is because there is such a polarization when it comes to this topic, I think, everywhere. It's either those who had a negative experience and as a result they're like, no gracias. There's obviously the conversation of like addiction as well. And then on the flip side, the culture of binge drinking and not knowing limits and things along those lines. So I'm curious to know if any of that, or judgment, peer pressure that comes with drinking culture sometimes, had any impact on you at first.
So I'm a super outgoing person.
No me cuenta.
So I really never felt I needed it.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. Same.
I could be, I'm super energetic. I'm very outgoing. I have batteries that are not even the Energizer Bunny has.
Yes.
And I was always like, it could be 3 a.m. in Colombia partying with my friends, and I'd be dancing on the tables with just a pitcher of water.
Same.
So I never really needed it. And then I was an athlete in school. I was, so I was in the swimming team. I was like the sports girl of the year in high school. Like, I was very, very sportsy. And I never really needed it. In my house, we only had soft drinks in my house whenever we were traveling and there were no natural juices. So I was brought, I guess, under that, not that my parents didn't drink. They had, I'm telling you, they had parties every weekend. But I was just brought around that I felt that I didn't need it. Yeah. And one time when I did drink, I noticed that I became the complete opposite. It got me like down, like sad, down, kind of depressed.
Quiet, yeah.
No, kind of like, no, not even quiet. I would start crying. I would be like very dramatic. So I just really didn't need it. Yeah. And because there's such a big culture of drinking in Colombia, as you know, I was like the designated driver, and I was the one who was like, I was just drinking water all night and partying, and I'd be the one driving everybody around.
Yeah. I can relate to many of the things that you said. My parents personally, they do not drink. It's very like the occasional Baileys or very, very here and there. So I did not grow up with much alcohol at home. However, because of our very open culture, you know, we would go to family friends' houses and then it'd be like, si quieres probar, mejor pruébalo con nosotros presentes. Like, it was not a taboo. It was always of the mindset of like, obviously in moderation if it's something that you want to partake in, but you're open. Like, acá tienes acceso, you know?
Yeah, and that's very much our culture.
Exacto. And I think growing up as well, same thing. I'm like, I don't really need it. You know, having been raised in the U.S., so different to you, you know, you were raised in Colombia. I was raised in the U.S. And the relationship that my peers had with alcohol was very different because they were like, oh, like, I don't have access to this at home. Or they go to college and they go crazy. Precisely because of, estoy libre, ahora puedo hacer lo que se me dé la gana, etcétera, etcétera. So anywho, just a personal tidbit there. At what point did you move from Colombia to New York? First off, that's my first question. Out of curiosity.
So
and why?
I moved to Colombia in the year 2000, January 12, 2000. But I lived in Arizona when I was 9 years old. My dad was going to school for his master's degree.
Okay, so wait, you were born in Colombia.
I was born in Colombia.
Okay.
We moved to Arizona from 9 until 11, 12.
Okay.
My dad was going to school.
Got it.
And we all moved.
Okay.
And then went back to Colombia.
In 2000?
Went back to Colombia in 1982, 3.
Okay.
And then came to New York in the year 2000.
Okay.
So it's 26 years in New York City. Yes.
Oh my goodness.
Yes.
Okay.
A lifetime.
So, no, literal. Now that we've established that timeline, okay, let's go back to the piece of homework that your former boss gave you of pinpoint the bars that are worthwhile, because I have a feeling, and obviously we're going to hear from you, that changed this from a hobby to actually being able to dedicate full time. And while you're doing it, if you want to show us you in action,
of course,
feel free.
Of course. So I'm going to start with what happened was it became very empirical. And I went a little bit above. I'm very passionate. So whenever I go for something, I go all in. All in. So she actually sent me to look for gins and good tonic water at restaurants. I went a little further. There was a liquor store near the office, and I would go every Friday when we were going to meet up at my friend's house. I would go and look for new gins. So it became very empirical. And then when the pandemic hit, and I had 2 business partners. I'm now by myself, but I had 2 business partners. My 2 friends who were my business partners said to me, we've got to start something. And when we started something, and this is going to lead us into what I'm going to make, we created the cocktail kit.
Which is right here. And you're known lovingly as the Gin and Tonic Queen. So this is the Gin and Tonic Queen cocktail kit. And the idea behind this is what?
So it's to be your own bartender at home. And basically, I gave myself the name Gin and Tonic Queen. Was the reason why I did it was at that time in Instagram, the only way to find photographs, if you had a big feed, was with hashtags.
Yes.
So I was like, I'm just going to create a hashtag, Gin and Tonic Queen. So when I have conversations with people around gin, I can just look up a bottle and show them and, start a conversation. That's how the name started. Then we got together as we did in the pandemic to have a gin, which I'm going to prepare for you guys in a second, a gin so we can have together. And, instead of having the wine that you would have with friends when you were meeting up during pandemic via Zoom, we had a gin, and they were like, my gin does not taste as good as the ones you make. Ximena, we need to do something. We need to do something. And we started brainstorming. And the child of that, of the way our business was born, was through the Gin Tonic Queen cocktail kit.
Okay.
But our designer said to us, you guys can't just do this. This makes no sense. Like, you guys are not going to become, this can't be a business, can't rely on these cocktail kits. So that's when, because I had been in the industry of the interior design and knew about all these networking events and after work events, and I felt the need for something fun to happen, because a lot of people were not going to these events anymore because they were the usual wine and cheese, and people were just like, so I was like, I started tapping into that network and into that, I saw that niche that was, the corporate niche where you have experiences, not just, so that's how Gin and Tonic Queen was created, like the second part. The first part was the cocktail kit, and then the experiences. Okay. So I'm gonna make you, the Golden Sazón Elixir is, I made a special drink for today. This is part of what we do. We customize every single menu. No two experiences are ever alike.
Wow.
So we have one that is about, just your bar, like a bar, a luxury bar, because we bring everything. The glassware, we don't use plastic. We like to be, we like to give back to the planet and try and stay away from plastic. We bring like real ice, like good ice, so that your drink does not melt and become watery. And we try to do everything very specific to whatever the event is. If it's a birthday party, it's around the birthday person. If it's a corporate event, it's around, whatever we're showcasing that day. And as we prepare the drink, we talk about it.
Okay.
So our Golden Sazón Elixir is going to be made with, I have actually 2 gins here today. I wanna show you 2 gins. I have Selva Gin, which is a gin from Colombia. Is one of my favorite. I think you can get them here in the States now. And I'm gonna make our drink with Il Dottore gin, which is an Italian gin. The beauty of this gin is that 25% of the profits go back to people with autism and different like good causes. So I love it. It's a great gin. It's very smooth. It's not as juniper forward. I love juniper. I have nothing against juniper. I'm the Gin and Tonic Queen. But it's one of those smooth gins that go really, really well with a cocktail.
Okay.
And we're going to do tropical fruit Inam elixirs. And I want to talk to you a little bit about this. This is a great product from Colombia.
Okay.
So the tropical one has passion fruit, mango, and pineapple.
Amo el maracuyá.
Ay, me too. El maracuyá.
Yeah,
Yes.
exacto.
I love passion fruit. So we're gonna make that with elixir. The beauty of this product is also, with a little goes a long way.
Okay.
So instead of getting a bunch of sodas or small cans and making more pollution for the planet, with this bottle you can make 60 drinks.
Wow. Okay. Good to know.
Because it's a concentrate. It's a concentrate.
Okay.
And there's different flavors. Like they have the grapefruit. There's a lychee. There's a ginger beer.
Okay.
There's the tonic water too.
Okay.
So it's instead of having to carry around a bottle of you just mix it with seltzer water or sparkling water. Today we're going to use Topo Chico.
Okay.
And our drink has, so in our cocktail kit, there's like 4 different botanicals to spice up and make your drink. So we have butterfly pea flower, which are these little beautiful flowers that make this tea, this purple tinted tea. We have our red peppers for somebody who wants to spice it up. We have our juniper berries, and we have rosebuds. So today we're gonna do. I'm gonna start with our drinks.
While you're starting, I have to thank you porque I can't. O sea, This was never on my bingo card, a personalized drink in honor of the show and our time together. So, muchas gracias
Of course.
for ese detallazo, honestly.
No, es con todo el amor del mundo y es lo que hacemos en Gin Tonic Queen.
Okay, perfect. So I will let you walk us through what you're doing.
Okay, so we're going to do, first of all, one of the things that we do for a good gin and tonic is we have to make our copa. Okay, first the glassware. So we're using a copa. That's how these are called. Usually gin and tonics are either served in a copa or in a tall Collins glass. So I love the copas. So we are making our copa really, really cold. So, and this is the way, this bar spoon is also part of what is inside the kit.
Yes, I have it at home.
So we are making our copa, very cold. Remember how I told you how we want to, look at all that water that just came out. Wow. Even though these are big ice and nice ice, you saw how in a moment you can water down your drink so much.
This is the first time that I actually atentamente veo cómo utilizan todas las herramientas. I truly could not have told you what that was used for. Wow. Okay.
Okay, and like I told, so a couple of things is whenever you're making a drink, you always leave your most expensive ingredient for last in case you mess up.
Oh, okay.
So we're going to do the Inam elixir. We're going to do 1/4 ounce.
Okay.
And this is a Japanese jigger. It's also part of the kit, and this is the way we measure. So, Cata, I don't know if you can smell from over there, but
I can.
It's unbelievable.
Delicious.
I wish there was a way of smelling.
Sensorial audio and video for those at home.
Yes. So that's our Inam elixir, okay? And then what we are going to do is we're going to do the butterfly pea flower. Okay. We're going to do, see that color? Yes. How beautiful.
Which purple is actually my favorite color.
Oh, no.
So, de verdad que atinaste espectacularmente.
Wow. So, and then we're going to use a splash of lemon.
So good.
A splash of lemon. You saw how that color just changed a little bit there?
Yes. I made it lighter.
Yes. And then we're going to do the Il Dottore gin.
Okay.
And we're going to do 2 ounces of that.
While you're making this and continuing to tell us about that, I'd love to tap in to your entrepreneurship experience, because I think entrepreneurship can be glamorized at times because people don't really see the behind the scenes. So let's talk about what people might be surprised to know, or any misconceptions that come with entrepreneurship, and how it ties to your experience in particular, because again, you went from corporate America, right? Being hired at an architecture firm to kind of venturing on your own. Yes, because of circumstances of the pandemic, but also because you were being pushed in that direction given your talents and your interests. So talk about that.
So, can we ask that question again?
Yes,
I was
of course.
I was tasting how good this is, and I'm sorry.
It's okay.
So I'm going to, just before we go to that question again, I'm going to garnish that with our golden crown and with a passion fruit and with a beautiful calendula flower. Okay, let's do that again.
Of course.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Moment.
Gracias por estar acá.
Gracias,
Thank you
Cata.
so much for sharing your story. And your talent. Oh my gosh. Esto sabía jugo de maracuyá. Es que this is.
Be careful. That's dangerous.
Yes, that's what I was going to say. These are the types of drinks that I like. It's not overpowered by one thing or another. It blends well and it goes down super smoothly. So this is going to be dangerous.
Salud.
Salud. So I would love to tap into entrepreneurship. It's a topic that is glamorized.
Yes.
And not enough people know what it truly takes to make a business, number one. And then also la dedicación. Oh, wow. You know, you came from a structured architecture job in the corporate world, which is traditionally 9 to 5, but I'm sure there were longer hours,
no,
right?
9 to 5, no. In architecture, that does not exist.
Okay.
Let's start with that.
Okay. But there was structure of some sort. There was like a preset structure, was what I was trying to get at. And when you go out on your own, you're literally on the clock 24/7, even longer hours than architecture because this is your baby. So talk about that.
So actually, I think the foundation from design was great because we work such long hours in architecture and interior design. You have no idea. Cata, you have no idea. It's mind-blowing. And in New York City, it's even worse because the competition is like, it's madness.
And what type of projects were you doing, just to paint the picture?
Hospitality, high-end residential. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, no, it's crazy hours. And actually, it was one of the reasons why when the pandemic hit and I decided to really just, do my own thing, it was because one of the days that I was, my son, who's like really good kid. I know most moms say that, but I kind of looked at him and said, I don't recognize who you are. He's like, Mom, you're never here. How are you going to recognize me? And he didn't say that in a bad way. No, and he didn't say it in a bad way or in an entitled way. Yeah. But it made me realize that, during the weekend, I was a really good mom. I was with him all over and I was doing all kinds of stuff. But during the week, I didn't come home until 7, maybe 8, the commute. It's just the nature of the beast. And I said, you know what? I only have a couple of years more with him. I want to dedicate myself to him. Yeah. And that was one of the reasons why I was like, even though I didn't want to leave the design world, which I don't think I have, my experiences are design. And when people see them, they always they're like, wow, this is like, you can tell that you're not,
You're not throwing this together. There's a lot of
there's a lot of thought behind it. So when Matthias said that to me, I was like, no, I'm going to make this work. And I think that having that foundation of working really long and hard hours in architecture and design, I don't feel, I think that helps, one. And two, I'm working on my passion. I don't feel like I'm working.
Yes.
I'm dedicated to my passions. I really don't feel like I'm working. And to go back to the entrepreneur question. So I'm very creative, very, very creative. But I lacked, and I say in past because I feel more and more empowered every day, is I noticed that I was really, that part of the part of the business part was so hard for me. And one of my business partners, both of them were like, they were the ones who were handling all that. And when I ended up on my own last year, I was like, I'm going to make this work, whatever it takes, sí o sí. O sea, lo que sea, pero para adelante, para atrás, ni para coger impulso. So I've taken 3 classes actually now. I'm taking 2 right now. I'm like going to taking incubators, like business incubators. I actually applied to a competition and I just passed the first round.
Ay,
yes, I'm very excited. We'll see what happens, but it's like, it's a good, it's like, it also helps me believe in what I'm doing and know that I'm pushing myself in some areas that are totally like very new and difficult for me, but I feel I feel like every little step I take, I feel I'm thriving. Like I'm making it happen. I'm making it happen. And entrepreneurship is not as glamorous as it sounds. It's not as beautiful as it looks in Instagram or LinkedIn. But hey, if you've got that passion, if you've got the drive, it's going to happen.
So you mentioned the business side being initially challenging, and you've worked at that. You've also mentioned, when you started Gin Tonic Queen, you had 2 business partners, and now you're on your own. What led to that transition, and did that transition make the experience harder, even if it meant more worthwhile?
It did. So there's 2 sides to that question.
Okay.
It made it harder because of these things that I had never really paid attention, if you will, because I was like, oh, they'll take care of it. Oh, they'll take care of it. So I never really focused on that part of the business, which I'm doing now. So that was the hard part.
Yeah.
Ending a business partnership is never easy, but when things are not working, it's the nature of the beast. It's better to part ways. And because I am very passionate about what I'm doing and because I have the energy to. Because that's the other thing. I am a very, like, I feel like I have the energy. And you should see me. I mean, for an event, I have
Yo
to
te
carry.
vi llegando acá con todo esto on the subway, up elevators all over the city. Like, obviously, we didn't show the behind the scenes, and maybe we should have, but it takes a lot, even for something so seemingly small. So I can only imagine a grand scale event.
So I do big, large events. I mean, I do events that, ranging from 30 cocktails to 300 cocktails. And I have a great team of people that are working with me, but it takes a lot. But I don't feel it. I think it's that when you're working on your passion, it's just it flows.
You mentioned lo que te dijo Matías, your son, being kind of like a wake-up call of, wow, just because you weren't able to be as physically present during the week as you would have loved, that kind of hit you a little bit. That kind of like, wow, espérate un segundo, this is something that I want to change. How else has motherhood shaped your approach to your business? And with the same care that you raise a child, you're also applying that same attention to making every experience personalized and the attention to detail and just from point A to point Z, mucho cuidado y con mucho amor lo que haces.
Yeah, so motherhood is a wild ride. I was Matías. The meaning of Matías is gift of God. And that was the reason why we chose that name for Matías. And he truly is a gift of God. But I also think that entrepreneurship has been so much part of his life, and maybe also his latter part of his life, that he even started his own business last summer.
Tell me more.
And he's thriving at it. And he now wants to study business, because he wants his business to be better.
Okay.
So I think that's also helped him shape into the young man that he's shaping up to be, because he sees, the entrepreneurship and, the hard work. So he's got a property maintenance. He shovels snow. He rakes leaves. He does window washing. He does gutter cleaning.
Oh my gosh.
And he is like, he's like very dedicated and has his crew, and he's like working very hard on his business. And he switched from wanting to be a historian, he loves history, to now wanting to be a businessman. So I guess, part of seeing all of this has also helped.
Okay. It's like the two-way relationship of tú te estás dedicando a tu negocio and simultaneously serving as an example for him to follow in your footsteps, pero in his own way and like shaping it on his own. I love that. You mentioned earlier as well that, you were kind of introduced to the world via gin, and that's kind of like your biggest love, but you don't just work with gin. And that has kind of bridged the opportunities to become brand ambassador, for example. So tell me what being a brand ambassador means to you and how you take on these partnerships just as thoughtfully as every other aspect of your business.
So brand ambassadorship is like a big love for Gin Tonic Queen. We started with Mermaid Gin, which was a beautiful gin that was being introduced in New York City. Love Mermaid Gin, everything about it, from the bottle to the liquid to the whole story behind it. And that led us to even we did an event with them in Colombia. There's a gin festival that was happening at the time, which is called Gin Art Tonic, and we brought Mermaid Gin to Colombia, and people love it there. Okay. And we were trying to find a niche for it in Colombia. Then after Mermaid Gin, we ended up working with Las Californias Gin, beautiful gin that is made by an amazing distiller who's also a botanist. Okay. And he blends, what he wanted to do was blend Las Californias, like the whole region of, Baja California, Mexico, and California, U.S., and blend it all into a gin, which is beautiful. It's a beautiful, beautiful story, beautiful gin. And that led to, being a brand ambassador leads to going to restaurants, going to bars, walking and knocking on doors and, doing a tasting of the gin, and then getting that gin be on the menu for getting that gin brand to be on the menu or be part of what is used behind the bar. So it's a great experience of going, introducing, talking about a beautiful spirit. And we're just, we've worked with other brands. We've used them at our events. We've done, Axogen. Number 3, I was a competitor in there. They have a competition every year with all the bartenders.
Okay.
And I was one of the finalists in New York. And then I ended up, thank you, and I ended up winning People's Choice Award at that event with gimlet with passion fruit too.
Okay.
See, passion fruit is my love too.
Yes.
So we've done all kinds of different partnerships and brand ambassadorships with different brands, and I just think it's a great way of also spreading the word about good spirits that are out there. With Las Californias, what happened is they're under an umbrella called Casa Lumbre Spirits, which has beautiful spirits. They kind of like came, and I was very adamant about only doing gin, and then one day during a meeting they were like, oh, we need a mezcal queen. Can you be the mezcal queen? I was like, no. And my business partner, Mexican, like my ex-business partner, Mexican, she's like, Ximena, we should definitely try this. She was always trying to like broaden the portfolio. And we're like, okay, let's try it. I was like, but we're Gin and Tonic Queen. Why are we going to be talking about another spirit? And then I fell in love with mezcal, with Contraluz mezcal, which is Maluma's mezcal. And then they came out with the tequila, and we were working with them, spreading the love. Then they were like, oh, let's talk also about Alma Finca, which is an orange liqueur that they had. By the time we opened and closed our eyes, we were working with a lot of their brands and just spreading the love for those brands. So we just love talking spirits. Even though gin is our love, our first love, we love talking about
the family
good
has grown.
The family has grown, yes.
Let's talk about the parallels between what you had to do and prepare for as an architect and now what you do now with this business. Because just from everything that you've shared, the attention to detail, the thoughtfulness, the being able to think little picture and big picture are just things that from the outside looking in are parallels in both. But you tell me more, having lived first-hand experiences.
So the main thing was, and my dad always told me this growing up, is like, whenever you're going to do something, do it well. It's a very it's a parent, like a parenting advice.
Yes.
Everybody do your best. I tell Matias every day when he goes to school, do your best. So always do your best. So one of the things that we realized when we were starting Gin and Tonic Queen was, I can't continue walking around empirically talking about stuff. I need to go to school. And that summer that we went to Colombia for the whole summer with Matias, I enrolled into bartending school. Okay. So that's the first thing, like doing things from being serious about what you're doing and learning. And then when I ended up being on my own, being like, okay, I don't really know much about, all this accounting part and this taxes and this, all this business side of it. Let's study. And I started taking all these courses, and I'm like, every day I feel like,
Más preparada.
Yes, yeah, definitely.
I love that.
So I just think that whatever you do, doing it well, and bartending is not what it used to be 30 years ago. Yeah. Like there's the bar and the bartenders that we have, the bar, pun intended, is really high.
Yes.
And the bartenders and all these masters that are out there have raised the bar big time. I mean, and we have here in New York, just to name a couple of things, we have BCB, which is Brooklyn Convent Bar Convention, which actually happens also in Brazil. It also happens in Germany. It's a huge, they take over Industry City in June.
Wow.
It's huge. Everybody goes to this. Then last year they started the Martini Expo, which is amazing. If you like martinis, you can't miss that.
Okay.
And then on the other side, there's for the people that are not drinking, there's drinks with benefits. The first time that it happened was last year in September. Nice. They're getting ready for the second one, and it was also huge and very elevated, and it had all these different, layers of things that people who are not drinking want to see, and it almost felt like a real party with no drinking. So there's a lot of layers behind, and and doing all of this in the spirits world, the bar is really high.
Yeah. Speaking of layers, many people from the outside looking in think that mixologists, they just serve drinks. But in reality, they play a fundamental role in that experience component, right? And I know that experiences is at the heart of the work that you do. So talk about that. Like, what does it take to truly, from end to end, think about an experience, execute it, and personalize it to each of your clients? And you can use this personalized drink as an experience, like as an example. Like, how did you pick the ingredients? With what in mind? What was your inspiration? Things like that.
So there's so much thought process behind any of the experiences that we do, and we're gonna do an example of what we're doing here today.
Yeah.
So I put on my creative hat, and anytime I have an event or an experience booked, I put my creative hat. So I'm doing one that has to do with the Oscars next week.
Nice.
So there's like a creative hat behind that. And today, what my thought process was behind today was, okay, Cata is Colombian. I know her colors. You know, I'm a follower of your podcast. You know, it was rated the second most listened to podcast in my feed last year by Spotify. So I knew that you had this, you know, purple pinkish tone to it. I also wanted to, like, you know, because I wanted to show the cocktail kit, I wanted to talk about the butterfly pea flower and how it doesn't affect the drink. It just gives it that tint of color that is natural, which I love to talk about being natural. And so that's all the things that I thought about when I was creating this one in particular. I'm going to talk to you about an experience that we created 2 weeks ago for Sherwin-Williams, for a paint company.
Okay.
So there was a palette of colors because it was in a home that was painted with these specific colors. So it was brown, orange, pink, and red. The walls of this house were actually those colors. Wow. Amazing. She's an artist.
Okay.
And I mean, it sounds crazy, but she really pulls it through, right? So for the brown walls that were in the dining room, I created an espresso martini. For the yellow walls that were in the corridor, it was a mimosa. And it had specific names that went with the colors.
The name of the colors for Sherwin-Williams.
Yes, okay. I can't recall right now. It's off the top of my head. So like yours has the golden Sazón elixir.
Yes.
Theirs had like colors specifically. There was the mocktail was the pink, the fuchsia, and I used dragon fruit and I used the Inam ginger beer.
Okay.
And for the orange walls in the living room, I did a spritz.
Nice.
So, you know, an Aperol spritz.
Yeah.
And then for the red walls, I did the most delicious Bloody Mary. I made it from scratch. I made the juice from scratch. Everything that I do, by the way, I don't use anything that is pre-made, no, I make it from scratch. So that's another level that I bring to the table. Yeah, of care and of detail that I bring. Like I make all my syrups. I cut all my, I mean, the passion fruit I can't because there's no way of finding passion fruit here. That's the only reason why this guy is like a
Yeah,
it's not like the real deal. But if I had passion fruit, you'd have like real passion fruit hanging from your cocktail pick.
Okay. I love that. And it's fascinating because there is also an undertone of storytelling in what you do. And it's one thing to see it, right? It's another to actually see you in action. And combined with all of that, to hear from you the thought process that went into it. So talk about that, like the storytelling component of the experiences that you put together and the fact that like really voicing the story behind it is kind of like the bow on top of like, wow, qué chévere, yo no sabía que tenía esto, etcétera, etcétera.
So it's funny you mentioned that because I have been asked at events, do you work for this company? Like, because I'm so passionate about what I'm talking, or like I really go behind the scenes to the company I'm working with and what I'm doing, that I've been asked. I mean, I don't know if you want to hear names, but for example, Porcelanosa is a big company in Spain, and they're my clients. They're big, like I was their client I've been their client on the interior design side many times, and they're my clients on this side of the world as well. And for example, for their 50th birthday, they hired me, and they only wanted Spanish gins, And so I went through their whole, catalog of things, and I said, okay, I have these three gins that I used, and I paired them with their materials to the point that they also have a wall covering line, and not many designers know about the wall covering line. And I paired a gin with a wall covering line that had like a map, because it was a gin that talks, it's gin raw, which is what they did with that gin was they wanted to embottle Barcelona in a bottle. There was a perfumer, a mixologist, a cook. There were 5 people. I can't remember the other 2. And what they wanted to do was they wanted that gin to taste like Barcelona. And I found one of the wall coverings that looked like a plan of a city. So I basically had it there too. And while I'm serving the drink, while I'm making the drink, this is part of being hospital and hospitality, is talking to your guests. It's like, if a guest comes to a bar and he's had a bad day at work, he wants to or to
vent. Pass the time while you're making their drink.
And he ends up venting with the bartender, right? So while I'm doing the drink, I talk about your product.
Beautiful.
I mean, and I'm giving examples of design products, but I've also worked with Deloitte, for example, and we had like an event with Deloitte, and it was end of tax season. We've actually had 2 events with them, and the names of the drinks are like, embracing that whole experience. Yeah.
Fascinating. That's fascinating because I can relate in many things to how much of an expert, but at the same time not an expert on a topic you have to be. As a journalist, when I interview someone, when I talk to someone, I like not only to talk to them firsthand ahead of time, but also I do my research. So you very clearly do your research as well to make sure that the experience is completely personalized. Speaking of the experience, obviously, because it's catered to the type of event or the type of client, they're going to be different. No experience is the same, like you mentioned. However, what is the through line between all of the experiences that you have created? Is there a feeling that you want people to walk away from? Is there a specific impression that you want to leave beyond just, wow, what a delicious drink?
Okay, so first of all, like, I want them to feel like kings and queens.
Hence the crown.
And it goes on the details. Yeah. Like it's very detail oriented. Mm-hmm. Every single little detail that we put out. So if it's the mixology class, all of our barware, everything is gold. We're queens, right? But it all, like, you see those details, and when you see that in photographs, or when you see it in the deck, you see that there's that thought process behind it. So we want everything to feel very elevated. We're not your typical, we don't serve in plastic glasses. Yeah. Like we're not your typical bartender. We are an elevated, luxurious experience. And we not only bring the bar to you, we bring personalized menus. We bring spirit flights, where in the spirits flights is like a little tray with 3 smaller drinks.
Like the taster.
A taster, yes. We also have the mixology workshop, which is, we teach you how to become your own mixologist. So it's all like, there's all these little details that get intertwined, if you will, through our experiences.
What can you say about how you've been able to connect all of the things that we've talked about, the photography from a young age, the attention to detail from architecture and interior design, the hospitality, not only from the environment that you were raised in, but also the nature of our culture and the nature of who you are as a person, obviously. And when you bring mixology and spirits into the mix, that touch of also incorporating that into these all-encompassing work that you do.
So it all becomes like, it's a complete full circle.
Yeah.
It's like a full circle. And one of the things that happens with my experiences is that not only you're having a beautifully designed, delicious experience, but you end up having also photography. Because I always carry my camera around.
Yeah.
So even while I'm in the midst of serving a drink, I have my camera in the back, and I always ask, can I take your picture? And I end up also producing content and photography. So it's a full circle. For me, life is about making memories. And it's not making memories through the lens. It's making memories through an experience. It's making memories through a hospitable relationship. Like it's full circle. It's like that aha moment when I was studying back in Medellin, where it was like, wow, this now makes total sense. Because if you see me at an event, or like at an event, or like at an event, like a personal event, not working, I will have one of these the whole night. That's it. I'm not a drinker. I'm not really a drinker. What I like is serving. What I like is like that whole connection that is behind that drink. The storytelling that you were talking about behind the drink. That's exactly what I like. That's what it's all about for me. Yeah. And the design.
Obviously,
the design of the like
everything put together.
What glass am I going to use for this drink? What am I going to garnish it with? What am I like?
I love it. And I can tell, o sea, es evidente en esto, and also in the work that I've seen you do as well. I want to talk about as well, but as we start closing up, what you are hoping for the future. You know, you've already put a business forward. You know, it's now been 6 years since the pandemic.
Yeah.
You know, which is when you kind of like started pivoting. 4 since you launched Gin Tonic Queen. So you're doing big things. I'd love to know what is coming up. What exclusive can you give us? Also, what goals and dreams you're working towards? Tell me all about that.
Wow. So there's something super exciting that's about to happen.
Okay.
I'm not going to give too many details.
That's okay.
But,
you can tease.
But I'm going to tease you. There's traveling involved. Oh. And there's more learning involved with another spirit. That is not gin.
That's exciting.
Yes.
Roughly when will we know more?
April.
Okay.
Yeah.
Amazing.
April. So it's like it's coming up.
It's coming up. It's now, basically.
And I'm very excited because I've been learning about gin empirically, if you will, through books, through like all the people I get to talk to, through being an ambassador. You know, I've self-taught a lot of stuff, you know, but getting to go to another country and learn about another spirit firsthand, for me, is going to be major.
I'm excited.
So
felicitaciones por eso.
Thank you.
Also, any dreams? Like, what level do you want to take Gin and Tonic Queen to?
I want to take it to a really high level.
Okay.
So I've always dreamt, since it started, of having my own bar. So we'll see. We'll see if that happens.
Okay.
There was a point where I wanted to have my own gin brand. I feel
like that's still attainable.
Yeah. It's still attainable. It's still there. I just see that farther down the road. But yes. So definitely, like, I'd love to have my own gin brand. Yes.
Bueno. That's going to happen. I can't wait to be by your side and celebrate when it does. To close us out, I want to leave people with, what is something about your industry and the work that you do that not enough people talk about? What would they be surprised to know that you haven't already mentioned?
I already talked about the hard work.
Yeah.
There's a lot of hard work, but it's a beautiful, like all the industries, because really I feel like I'm in 3 industries at once, are beautiful. They all have a lot of hard work, a lot of hard workers behind, because I mean, I got to talk about my team. They're very hard workers. And I really feel, like I mentioned before, that bartending has been, it's been taken to another level, which I love, because there's a lot behind serving. There's a lot behind hospitality.
Yeah.
Whenever you sit at a bar, just think about, there's a lot that goes behind that bartender or that bar back being there helping that bartender, and what's all the layers that are behind that. Like, you have no idea, like just preparing the syrups, or preparing the mixers, or just getting the bottles, or at the end of the night counting, doing inventory. It's a lot that people don't really see, and some people might be like, really, this drink costs that? Yeah, like, do you know how much work there's behind that drink that you're having?
That's a great point. Well, listen, ha sido un placer tenerte acá. Thank you so much for joining me. Thank you for this customized drink, the Golden
Cheers.
Sazón. Thank you.
Sazón.
Qué orgullo el trabajo que estás haciendo. Además, qué orgullo que seas latina, que seas colombiana. And thank you for your support for the podcast, because I have felt your support since we met. And I'm so glad that you now have been on the other side of it.
I'm so glad. Thank you for the invitation. This was like when you texted me, I was like, oh my God, it's happening. I am super happy and excited to, have been part of it. I'm a big fan, and I just thank you for letting me spread the word about the work that I'm doing, and,
Que sigas creciendo, que sigan los éxitos, and also the community support. I really do think that the success of everyone is a big contribution is the fact that, like, as you start meeting people, they become your circle and they become your community, and the love and the work that you're spreading gets amplified as a result as well. And that's my goal with sharing your story. So gracias nuevamente, and thank you all for listening and watching. Until next time.